So why does defence and foreign policy matter so much to us here in the South? Here's Steve Humphrey.
Well, Alan, as we've heard already tonight, just over half of all of Britain's defence jobs are based in the southeast and the southwest, something over 164,000. And with the massive pressures on public spending, projects like the £5 billion contract for new aircraft carriers being partly built on the south coast in Portsmouth have been controversial. Now, Portsmouth's share of the work is worth around £800 million and will secure 1,500 jobs in the shipyard and more amongst suppliers. It's the type of project that highlights that direct link between defence spending and real jobs. There are also continuing arguments over the latest phase of the Eurofighter programme, another defence project involving many firms here in the south. And the biggest defence debate over the Trident's nuclear deterrence will be keenly watched by the thousands of people who work at the atomic weapons establishment in Aldermaston. It's one of the biggest employers in Berkshire. Now, for the troops on the ground, it's about how they're deployed, how they're looked after and what equipments they have that really matters. Now, Laura Trant has spoken to Neil Christie, a former Royal Marine from Portsmouth, about his experiences.
Neil Christie is 28. He was a captain in the Marines and was in charge of 30 men. But during his second tour of Afghanistan, the horrors of war became too much to bear.
Seeing friends or colleagues who'd been injured from improvised explosive devices, being ambushed, see the local kids who'd been injured and had lost limbs, it's not nice, it's pretty unpleasant.
It was when Neil had to identify one of his comrades that his breakdown began.
Just saw him lying there. Yeah, it's very upsetting. It was as if it wasn't him. It was, yeah.
The effects of trauma soon showed themselves. Neil was treated in hospital before he was discharged.
For people looking in on what was happening to me, it was the Neil that they knew had changed, and it's when people come back that they realise actually what they've just been through is pretty much almost hell on earth.
I asked Neil to list the things he wants changed.
I felt very incensed and angered when I was out there with the lack of assets, protective vehicles, the correct helicopter assets, and also funding to help with reconstruction.
So what would the main parties do for the armed forces? All three have promised a strategic defence review. Labour wants a charter for the forces, their families and veterans, and to strengthen mental health services. The Conservatives would double the operational allowance and look at a mental health follow-up service for personnel once they leave. The Liberal Democrats would bring starting pay into line with the emergency services and modernise more housing.
We've doubled the numbers of helicopters, trebled the number of helicopter hours, bought 1,800 new vehicles, not the one behind us, but ones with similar levels of armour, and so our people are well supported.
We've been very critical of the fact that they haven't had enough helicopters in recent years. More helicopters are now on their way, but it's taken a very, very long time. We should only send our troops into action when they have all the necessary equipment.
We wouldn't have a like-for-like replacement for the Trident nuclear submarines. We wouldn't spend money on the Eurofighter 3. So we'd save some big cost items and transfer the money into looking after the troops.
I'm not sure there are many politicians in power who would actually, hand on their heart, go and do the job that our servicemen and women are doing on the ground.
Coming up later in tonight's programme, Joe Campbell is live with some of those preparing to watch tonight's election debate showdown.